All right, guys, in this episode, I wanted to talk about slow maturing dogs. So, slow maturing dogs is a topic of sort of selection, particularly in working dogs. The average pet owner doesn't care about slow maturing dogs. As a matter of fact, slow maturing dogs for your average pet dog is actually a good quality because the dog gets to be a puppy for a very long time. And it is more of an issue or more of a concern rather with working dogs, because here's how it works with working dogs. And if you work with working dogs, if you participate or you're part of a sport in which you're competing with a dog, you definitely see this more often. Now, if you're part of this group of people that works with dogs, right, works with dogs in a competition setup, the slow maturing dogs can be very difficult to work with, and here is why. Right, when you do a sport, right, when you get a dog for a particular sport, for a particular activity, you're looking at the longer that you can actively compete. Okay, the longer that you can actually work this dog, the better, right? It's more fun, but it's also you also get to put more work into the dog, and the dog gets to title and gets to work on the field a lot longer. So here's what happens with slow maturing dogs. Slow maturing dogs basically kind of put a little bit of a break in there. Right? They kind of slow down that process a little bit, because these slow maturing dogs will tell you, hey, dude, I'm not ready to do any of that advanced stuff until, I'm 2 years old, right? Until I'm close to 2 years old, or some dogs even 3 years old. I've seen that too. Okay, I've seen that, and I know dog trainers that they're very good at what they do. People that have achieved at a very high level, that just have flat out said, if that dog is not 3 years old, that dog is not going on the competition field. And, if you look at dogs that are a little bit on the slow maturing side, that's what happens. They tell you, hey, dude, the imprinting and the maturity process is going to be a lot longer for me before we are ready to step on the field. So typically what ends up happening is the slow maturing dogs end up getting washed. This is something that does happen. I've seen it happen. Have a club member who started as a client who had that bit of an issue. She has a really nice dog, but I remember when I started working with them, she was struggling with the dog being this big goofy dog. Right? He was just a big puppy, and picking things up was very, very slow. So it took a lot of repetitions, and people, well-meaning people that did have good advice. I'm not saying that they didn't know what they were talking about, but people who had, her interest at heart were telling her, were recommending, hey, maybe you should consider washing the dog. And the reason was they were looking at it from the perspective of, this dog is taking too long to mature. And she considered it, and I gave her the option. I didn't tell her to do it or not to do it. I just gave her the option. I told her, hey, this is one thing that happens with slow maturing dogs. I know this because I know this from experience. I've worked with slow maturing dogs. I have clients who have slow maturing dogs. And what happens with these guys is, I'm talking more in the context of protection training, but it's applicable everywhere else. But in protection training, what ends up happening is the slow maturing dogs, when you're trying to teach them, obedience, they're not as focused. So because they're not as focused, they have the puppy brain. So the puppy brain goes here, and there, here and there, and here and there, and here, and here and there. And that's what you see a lot with the slow maturing dogs. They maintain that puppy brain a lot longer. They're not as focused. And because they're not as focused, they lose interest very quickly. Even if you have something they want, very quickly the environment just tells them, hey, dude, remember, you are a puppy. And the focus kind of goes out the window. So that's one of the traits of slow maturing dogs. Is one of the things that they give you. One of the things that happens is that. The other thing that happens with the slow maturing dogs, again, I'm talking in the context of protection training too, is in protection training, the slow maturing dogs, they can be a little bit either hectic or a little bit softer on their grip, because again they're thinking like puppies, right? They're and that's not always the case. I'm making a generalization here. I've seen some very full nice gripping dogs, but they still have the brain of a puppy in every other context. So sometimes what happens is they're a little bit slow in the bite work too. So the progression of the bite work is slower. One of my friends and a club member, he has a really nice dog, but man, like this dog it took a very long time to get his grip and to get his bite work where it is today. This dog was so, just focused everywhere. Not focused, but his lack of focus was so apparent in the bite work, at least, right? And when he would bite, he was just so he didn't know how to manage all that abundance of drive while he was biting. So because he didn't know how to manage that, he was just like all over the place, pulling, thrashing, spinning, doing all kinds of things. And it took maturity. Okay, it took maturity and work. We worked in my club a certain way where we minimized or eliminated all those options. And the owner, right, my friend, he also worked similar things at home. He knows what he's doing. He's not just a random person. He's a dog trainer as well. He knows exactly what he's doing. But it took all of that plus letting the dog mature on his own. For one day, it all clicked. The focus, all of that clicked. Slow maturing dog, at least in the context of bite work. So in the case of my friend here, people would have also told him the same thing. I know this. People would have told him, dude, you're wasting your time. This dog is never going to get better. And it takes a little bit of faith to go, well, what if it does get better, right? Or what if he doesn't get better? Maybe, the longer I keep him doing this, the longer we're both going to be frustrated. So it takes a little bit of faith to go, maybe this dog is just, maturity-wise, is just not quite there yet. This happens with males and females, but I've seen it more so happen with males. Males mature slower. Females mature a little bit faster, but females get their power a little bit later. A little bit later. Whereas males mature a little bit slower, but they get their power and their boldness a little bit sooner. And that combination is not always, it's not always right where we want it to be. So the slow maturing dogs tend to get washed pretty quick. And I've seen that, I've heard that happening. But once you let them mature, man, they're great. Now here's what the fast maturing dogs are. Dogs that mature fast are amazing because these guys mature fast. That means they get focused sooner. Okay, I've seen dogs like we have one right now. As a matter of fact, the client and club member now that I told you about a moment ago, who had the very slow maturing dog, that people told her you should wash him. He's now a super solid. He's still he's still a big baby, but he's super solid, powerful, very strong, bold male now. Really a baby with his owner. Very very still goofy traits, very puppy traits. But in his work, he's very focused. The same person also has another dog that is, you can tell right away, she was much more focused. She's a very young dog. She's about, at the moment, I think about 5 months or so, and maybe a little bit more. But you can see that she has more focus. She still has the puppy brain, the puppy attitude. But in her work, in her obedience, and in her bite work, she's much more focused. So what's great about these fast maturing dogs is they are more focused, so you can, you can keep them in the training progression, in the training, um, um, in the training protocols much more, much longer, right? You can do a training session where the training session could be a little bit longer, and you could throw more in there in the training sessions because they have the focus, the mental capacity to keep up with the training sessions and with the complexity of the training sessions. So they learn it faster. Almost, it seems like they're learning it faster. They're picking it up faster because they're more focused, right? So all of that happens, and then it doesn't take very long as they get to the right age to where they can start competing. All of that starts clicking, and man, you see some really nice young dogs, but they're mentally very, very nice and mature. These dogs are amazing. The reason why people like those dogs, again, the faster they mature, the longer they have for this dog where they can start competing. I mean, think about this. Would you rather start competing with a dog when it's right at 14 months of age, which in PSA is the age limit, right? 14 months of age, this dog is already has the focus, the mental capacity to handle, the competition field? Or are you going to work with a dog, or would you rather work with a dog that, they're not mentally prepared for that until they're about 2.5? I mean, you're talking like an entire year. Are you talking more than an entire year? Okay, over a year of difference between, in this hypothetical scenario where you have a fast maturing dog that can start competing at 14 months and a very slow maturing dog that could possibly, start competing when he's about 2, or maybe even 2.5. You're talking about a year or more right there. So you have that, right? And I've seen dogs that are even slower than that. I have seen dogs that it did not click. Super young, immature babies. And when they were suddenly like 3 years old, it all clicked. 3 years old, all maturity, boldness in the bite work and the obedience, much more focused. And I have seen that. I've seen that more than once. So when you have a dog that like 3, they're not mentally prepared for the complexities of the trial field until they're about 3. Now you're thinking, man, like one dog started at 14 months of age, the other one starting at 3. Right? That's like double the time. Right now you're waiting double the time before you start working with this dog. And in the grand scheme of things, you're shaving, like another year and a half. Because now you're also looking at the retirement age, right? If I start competing with this dog at a year and a half, I have several years of competing and working with this dog before we start considering retirement. But if you don't start competing with this dog until he's about 3, obviously now you don't have as many years as the dog that started competing at 14 months. So that's sort of the difference between the slow maturing dogs and the fast maturing dogs. The fast maturing dogs are more focused, they're flashier, where the slow maturing dogs are like, big, goofy, very puppy brain type personalities. The slow maturing dogs can be awesome though, like they can be. I made a post about my dog Cinco, and I'm doing some obedience with him, and I put a long post, long text on that post, and maybe I didn't give him enough credit on that video. He's a nice dog. Or Cinco is the black and tan, the bicolor dog, the young one, and he's really nice. Like he's got some nice traits. He's just, he's not bothered by much. He loves to bite. He has a nice, when he gets into the grip, he has a nice full grip. He's very level-headed. He's very even-tempered. Big contrast from our other dog, Rust. But the reason that I put on the original post, the reason that I put, man, he can be considered untrainable. It's not because he's aggressive. There's nothing aggressive about this dog. It's not that he's stupid. He's not a stupid dog. It's because he does have that very young puppy brain, and he likes toys, but he doesn't like him too much. So when I reward him with a toy, like if I pull a toy with Rust, even when he was young, right, my older dog Rust, even when he was a puppy, if I pulled a toy, man, I got his attention. And yes, his brain would deviate. He would go sniff the roses here and there. But by 6, 7 months of age, Russ was more focused on the toy. So that maturity kicked in faster for him. Um, but Cinco, he's 14 months now, and he's like, yeah, I'll go for the toy. But then very quickly he goes, I want to run around instead. I want to sniff this. When it comes to bite, man, he loves to bite, right? He loves to bite. And so I'm like, okay, so we're not going to use toys for obedience. We're going to use food. And he likes food, right? He likes it. But he'll do the same thing. He's like, man, I like the food, but I want to sniff the air. And without getting out of position, he'll kind of move his nose out of the way and just start taking in the whatever smells the wind carried in his direction. He just loves that. That just satisfies the crap out of him. So he loves that, and then we go, all right, dude, you got to focus here. But he said, no, this is great. So it's a little bit of that touch and go with him and his progression with his focus. And I know by watching this dog, by watching him mature, watching him grow, he's definitely a big puppy. He's definitely one of those that is going to take a little bit of extra time before he gets his focus. He still acts like a puppy. If I take him out and I spend some time with him, not training, all just young puppy behavior. It's like the equivalent of having like a 10-week-old puppy just being all excited and just out of focus. That's still kind of how he is. And it doesn't concern me because I've seen dogs like him. And the other reason it doesn't concern me is because aside from the lack of focus that he has for now, he is an amazing dog. He's a super nice dog. And again, he's got some really nice qualities. So I'm still very excited to work him. I'm still very excited to see what he's going to turn into once the maturity kicks in. But yeah, he's a nice dog, just very, very slow to mature. And when I made that post, a couple of people reached out and they were like, oh, when you wrote that was awesome because it gave me some validation because I have similar issues. And I noticed that they're not aware of that. It seems like people don't know that is a thing. People really don't know. Like people see a slow maturing dog, and if they don't have experience with that type of dog, they think something is wrong with the dog. They truly do. I've had people that have washed really nice dogs. Now, if you wash your slow maturing dog because it's not the right type of dog for you, hey, that is fine. You're washing the dog because you don't want to deal with that. That's perfectly fine. But when people wash the slow maturing dogs with potential, because they don't know, because they think something is wrong with their dog, then it's almost a tragedy. Like, again, going back to this client that I told you about, this club member, if she had washed her dog, when it seemed like it was right to wash him, to not, when I say wash him, I mean, not do the sport anymore, right? And that could be rehoming, that could be sending back to the breeder, whatever, right? Whatever you choose to do with the dog. But if she had washed him then, it would have been almost a tragedy because he's such a nice dog now, right? And it was because she didn't know. She may have thought at one point, maybe there is something wrong with, maybe he's not cut out for this. turns out he is. He really is. He just had a little bit of a late start maturity wise. And I find that people don't realize that. Okay, same thing with my friend, right? His dog, Razor, he is super nice dog. But, had we washed him when he was younger, because he was very, very hectic and not mature enough to handle bite work, had we washed him then, it would have been almost like a tragedy, because he's such a powerful dog now. I mean, he's one of the hardest hitting dogs we have in the club. It's just this ball of energy, and when he hits you in bite work, everybody feels it. Even if you're just watching it, you're like, ooh, man, that sounded like it was a hard bite. Right? But again, if we had washed them earlier, because if we didn't know, that would have almost been a tragedy. So that's what I notice. Sometimes people are not aware of. Your slow maturing dogs, sometimes they don't act like your friend's dog. Okay, sometimes your 8-month-old dog does not act like the dog on social media that you're following, where their dog at 8 months of age, the same age as your dog maybe, they're doing way more things. Their dogs are way more advanced, and you're thinking, oh crap, I must be a crappy trainer. My dog must be a crappy dog. Maybe I don't have the right dog. Maybe that's it. Yeah, that could be a possibility as well. But maybe you need to give it some time too. That's a possibility. Okay, maybe you have a slow maturing dog. That is also a possibility. So, my suggestion is, don't be so quick. Don't be so quick to go, this is not a good dog. Even if people tell you, get rid of that dog, okay? Still give it a little bit of time, because it's been my experience that, I'm telling you, I've seen dogs not reach their peak until they're, over a year old. And sometimes you have to wait a little bit. Now, if you don't want to, again, that is perfectly fine. If you don't want to wait, don't wait. That's entirely your choice. I'm just telling you that some dogs mature slow, and that might be why you don't see with your dog what you see with other people's dogs, and that is perfectly fine. All right, guys, I just wanted to touch on that. I think it's a very important topic. I think it's a topic that a lot of people are not aware of, so I just wanted to give you my perspective. All right, see you guys in the next video.